This is a review of the third set of 10 full videos here on Potential Reality. This set of 10 is often about how I have tried to live my potential. A few of these look at my travels around the world and how my interest to understand all I could about place, cultures, languages, and history. A couple of these are on what we as a society are doing to assure we will not approach our potential. I have numbered the videos sequentially at the beginning of the description of each video. This is the 45th video. In episodes 33 and 34, Not a Usual Life, I look at how I have lived. I try to look at it objectively, that of an outsider looking in. I feel the more stories we know of people, the better it is. This allows us to better learn how to live life and to create greater compassion and passion. Although compassion is a selfless word, it is actually the most selfish thing we can do. Having true compassion is what allows us to best live our lives. It gives us the best outlook, the greatest peace. True compassion is also for the self. I tell my story as a storyteller. As a storyteller, it is then my task to present my life in a way which is most helpful for others to learn from it, just as I would in telling anyone else's life. By knowing other people's stories, it allows us to know ourselves better. That is not in a comparative way, but to acknowledge what makes us human, to hear our thoughts in the voice of others, to understand our abilities are not so different from one another's. This channel is about potential. I then look at the potential of my life as everyone should look at their own life. I constantly ask, what is it I can do to have a better mindset which allows me to better live life, to be more efficient, more productive, and enjoy it more? There are a number of things which I obtained levels on a cusp of greatness, but I didn't quite get there. That I made it to the cusp of these, I think, is a testament to resiliency, but also exposure and experience. That I made it to the cusp and not over the line of what I am calling greatness is a question I ask as well, and I continue aggressively to seek the answer. This pursuit will be a future episode. In episode 35, Our Food Addiction, I discuss the growing problem with the American food industry. In the interest of profit, our food industry has been allowed to produce harmful and addictive foods. It is estimated that more than 50% of Americans, or countries consuming the American diet, who are now children, will wind up with diabetes. It is believed this alone will bankrupt our medical system. Our poor diets contribute significantly to cancer and many other ailments, such as arthritis, brain fog, gout, autoimmune diseases, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, hormonal imbalances, a lack of energy, constant pain, and a large number of conditions or diseases. Most of our medical expenses are attributed to, at least in part, a poor diet. Publicly, I know of little concern for what we are allowing the food industry to do to us. Episode 36 is learning from our greatest passion. In my adult life, that has mostly been travel, extreme travel. Travel that challenged me in every way. It challenged my survival. To not have done my travels, to me, would feel like a sort of death. A death of my mind, the death of curiosity, and the death of possibility. Never have I worried about or questioned all I had to go through to understand or see. I simply had to do it. Had I done all my planned trips, I believe I would have been one of the most traveled, if not most traveled, people in history. As it is, I am the most traveled person I know. That tells me I must have an extreme passion for doing what I like to do. It is the case in other parts of my life as well. Travel taxes the brain as much as anything. That is, real travel. I use the word real as meaning when one is responsible for one's survival and not guided tours. It forces one to think how to communicate, how to problem solve, how to deal with local situations, and learning how to live as locals do. It teaches one to assess various systems, processes, and potential problems that may not exist in one's home country. I did most of my traveling without a phone and technology. That adds a layer of complexity. Survival in travel is an intelligence. The more intelligences we develop, the more versatile we become. Travel also teaches us to not be so easily manipulated by leaders, particularly political, which is often done in their own interest. It teaches one to more quickly question what should be obvious. This easy manipulation might be the most dangerous trait to humanity. In episode 37 on creating monsters, I look at society's ability to create monsters. I don't believe monsters are born that way. There's almost entirely obvious reasons one becomes a monster. I pose the question, what if you took the very best among us? That is the best of people in a sense of purity of heart combined with ability. What if you instead had them grow up with parents who were unloving? Have them grow up in a household and community that was not supportive, a community drug-infested, ridden with gangs, and seemingly without a way out. Give them schools which do a horrible job of educating, and instead teach them that success is not for them. Teach them they have no value in the world, but are simply a burden to it. Expose them to horrendous abuse at home. This is one formula on how to create monsters. Sure, they can be created in other environments as well, especially with the lack of love. Education alone does not preclude or prevent becoming a monster. Take a monster and instead change their exposure and environment. Give them loving and supportive parents, community, society, and schools. 4 years I lived in a split school system, split between wealthy and extreme poverty in the U.S. state of Michigan. I have witnessed the development of some monsters there. In all my travels through more than 70 countries, civil wars, and extreme violence, never have I seen the rage that I witnessed in those years of my preteen teenage years in Michigan. As an adult, I have volunteered well over 1,000 hours with disadvantaged children. From my preteen teenage years in Michigan, the time I spent with the disadvantaged children, and the rest of my life, never have I met a young child who I felt could not be turned into an outstanding human being. That is, had it been done early enough. I have never met a natural monster. In episode 40, On to South America, is how the trip to South America came together, the planning of it. There was something special in my mind about Argentina. Perhaps I saw it as a parallel universe, another place that I could have existed. I am sure when my ancestors left Poland, they considered Argentina along with the U.S., as the place they would migrate. I saw South America as a place to experience and survive. It was the worst of times to visit South America, as the economies had nearly collapsed, with some of the highest inflation rates in history. There were strong advisories against visiting it. It was assured one would encounter hostile treatment and would be under constant threat, especially in Peru and maybe Brazil. I still chose to go. Episodes 41 and 42, A Boy and His Jungle, were on living in Panama from the age of 2.5 to 4.5. We lived across the street from a deep, dense jungle, which extended into South America. I would be exposed to a zoo-like existence of amazing wildlife. I was the only young child in the neighborhood who on a dare would walk up and touch the jungle. I then felt connected to the jungle and was fascinated by what might be inside it. It stretched my imagination and began what has been a lifetime fascination with prohibitive places. We drove to the end of the Pan American Highway, and from there, a short distance through a place called the Darien Gap, was South America. I have wondered about it ever since. I think being exposed to the jungle, then South America, and having come from the U.S., caused my mind to wander, dream, to consider what everywhere else must be like. Please subscribe and like, as YouTube then sends the video on to others. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and see you in the next episode.